Check the chat and see. Okay.
It keeps saying my entry is not valid.
You got it.
Hey.
Hey, welcome everybody. We finally got the technical issue resolved. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. This is Dr. Tony Alessandra. I am the host today, and this is the first time that I've done this. I'm standing in for Angie Fairbanks, and I wasn't sure how to do the actual start of this, but here we are. So we have two great presenters today who are going to present an intriguing new assessment that they have created. We have Michael Bouton and Pamela Brooks. Let me just tell you something very briefly about each, and then I'm going to have Pam start it. Michael Bouton has over 15 years in assessment consulting for selection and training and development. He's a long-term entrepreneur, and he's shared in startups and turnarounds in a variety of unique business endeavors. Michael is certified in DISC, Motivators, and Value Science, which we call the HVP or Hartman Value Profile, and he brings together the most powerful toolbox for understanding and maximizing the inner strengths of individuals and teams. Now, over the past several years, Michael has participated in a team that has developed the Judgment Compass series of reports based on the Robert S. Hartman formal axiology. And the majority of Michael's clients are Fortune 500 multinational companies. So that's Michael, quite an intriguing, powerful background. Now, Pamela Brooks, she has a passion for helping people discover their best self. She's been a human performance specialist for over 14 years and has worked as a coach, an executive consultant, and an organizational development specialist. She developed the content for the Judgment Compass series and runs monthly insight calls on various topics related to the integration of passion, which we call the Motivators Report, presence, which is the DISC report, and process, which is the Judgment or Hartman Value Profile. She's been developing other consultants and coaches in her method of integration for the past 8 years and is always energized by the many ways that different consultants apply their knowledge to help others and grow their business. And hopefully, Pam, you're going to show us how we can apply your knowledge and help others grow their business. So here we go. Pam Brooks, you take over.
Thank you, Tony. I'm so glad to be here today. It's a great opportunity to share the assessment that we've been working on for many years. What we've done is combined all 3 reports into one place. And the big thing that I have is how do you create movement? And I just got through doing a workshop with 8 consultants. And I think one of the most powerful things that you can offer your clients is when you have that passion within yourself that creates a movement. They go, oh my gosh, I want that. I want to know what it is you know. I want that. I want to be able to take that to my clients. What we're going to talk about today is how to create movement first within yourself, then within the clients, and then within their teams, and that leads to also creating a movement within an organization. And so it's about making the connection between people. Michael, you go to the next slide. And one of the biggest things I've noticed today in our rush around high-tech industry with people going at, warp speed is that there's a real need to connect on a deeper level. And so to really make a difference in someone's lives, as the quote states, is you don't have to be brilliant, you don't have to be rich or perfect, you have to care. And that's one thing that these reports really help you do, is to care for a person at the deep level, because you're going to understand them from the inside out. And so it's really a great way to energize them by getting to know them, and it's a great way for you to know yourself so that you know how to work with them better. Next slide.
Sorry.
Okay, and this is the simple, I want to say, visual that we can present with regards to what this assessment is really getting into. When we dive into passions. That is the driving force for people. That is something that they have gained through experience, and it is a draw towards doing things. It is a push away from things that they may not like. They know that people who are engaged in activities that share their common passion are more engaged. They get more endorphins. They actually get into a flow state, so they can actually work at a higher level and a deeper level when they're igniting those passions. And then when you look at presence, which is the disc, and that's what people see. The reason I put an eyeball is that's what people see about us. That's what people are going to remember our actions. And so when you get into disc and you start looking at what it is that we present ourselves as, and even how we're adapting to work or to a relationship, we can take control of that presence when we understand what's driving it. And it's also important to note that from the DISC report, we get a really good understanding of our emotions. And our emotions drive everything from our memory to the actions that we take. And when we understand our trigger points and those things that set us off, we can take more control over our actions. And so this report gives you some of that understanding of the presence. And finally, we look at process. And process is coming from the judgment report, which is based on value science. And it's looking at how much information do you take in? How well can you process it? Where do you potentially have bias? There's been a lot of work by David Rock in the Neuro Leadership Institute. And what he's been pointing out is that there are tangibly 45 plus different biases that people have. This report is going to help you understand and help your client understand what some of these potentially are and how it may be getting in your way from performance. The other part about this in terms of process, it not only looks at how you process information outside yourself, but also how you process information about yourself. And that to me is one of the most powerful pieces out of all three of the assessments, because you as a coach, one, gain understanding about yourself, but two, you gain an insight into people that none of the assessments on the market can tap, because you're going to know how well they understand themselves. You're going to know how much they're engaged in the roles that they're in and how well they have been looking at that big picture and the goals that they have from themselves and how much satisfaction they're really getting from the goals that they've set. And when you tap that inner part of a person, usually that is the one detriment to performance that you're going to have a very profound impact on very quickly. So anyway, this combination of reports, again, is looking at passion, presence, process. And when we look at the integration of these, it is amazing the information that you can provide others. I know Michael and I have personally applied it to ourselves as our own coaching tool, looking at how we've had progress over the past few years. And in the people that I worked with in North Carolina, for them, the part that was just so fabulous was that they could see the growth in their own individuals that they had been working with over the course of time. Next slide.
This is me. This is me taking over here.
Yep.
And it's kind of like, so what? So what does it mean to you? And how do you use this? And when you're looking at a company, Pam attended the conference a couple of years ago, and in conversations with top HR executives, they universally lamented that their human resource systems was very disjointed. From selection to onboarding to training to developing, promotion, and so forth. The tools they were using were dissimilar, different for various stages in an employee's life at their companies. They used one assessment for hiring, another for training, another for coaching, and so forth. Sometimes they didn't even share the output of those assessments with the people that were taking them. They were looking for an integrated approach. Pam mentioned David Rock, and one of the things I noticed about this that I think is really, really interesting when you use, when all these things that you see here, you're probably involved in. So how does this fit into it? Now, one of the things that Rock said was that he cited research on association tests that have been ongoing for several years by Yale and Stanford. In it, he notes that nobody can escape bias. It is part of us and our brain. He covered over 19 different forms of bias that exist that we as humans cannot get away from. They are covered under the general topic of mental shortcuts, naive realism, objectivism, self-protection, time and money. Now, here's an example. When you're looking at a resume, the font alone could set people off. Or someone could have one typo when they cannot read the rest of the report, but spelling has nothing to do with the job. The list goes on. Anyone looking at a resume will be subject to biases that they're not even aware of and cannot objectively evaluate anything, really. Same holds true of a screening interview without objective information to guide the interview. What we provide is that objective information. Now, couple that with a clear understanding of what you're looking for so that you can compare what you're looking for with what you have, and now you have a way of going forward that minimizes the chance of making a hiring mistake. I recently presented our method of using assessments in the hiring process. An observation from one of the audience said, am I recommending not to read a resume? And I said, yes. First of all, you cannot validate easily the veracity of the resume. 40% of the information in a typical resume, in typical resumes, is not factual. There's also a high probability the resume was written by a third party. Now, David Brock, knows that the only way to get around bias in the hiring process is to have clear objectives, know what you're looking for, and to move towards assessment to gain an objective, non-biased view of what is taking place. That's where you come in with these tools, all these tools. Now, if you look at all these things, you know, we use them for, and I can go into this in great depth, but every one of these steps, and one I want to really focus on down here is promotion. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but if you look at promotion and how people have gone into how people get promoted, and a recent report by Gallup said that only about 10% of the population has the internal strength, if you will, to be a great manager. Another 20% can get there if you want to invest in coaching them. But the rest of them don't even bother. I mean, don't even bother. 82% of the managers out there currently employed as managers are not in that realm. They're not part of that group. They're not competent, if you will. 82%. And what Gallup said was that fully 70% of disengagement rests on the shoulders of managers. So here's where you can make a difference with the right idea, with the right understanding, with the right getting down to what these people really have at their core, and these assessments can do that. So, how do you create the movement? How do you do that? How do you get the first step? And let me tell you, the way we go after this is first understand yourself. And as we go through this, we'll give you a little bit of insight of what we did. Set the example, own it for yourself, embrace those that follow, and leverage their transformation. If you take this, you will see what we're really talking about and can use it. Pam?
Yeah, and the real movement starts with you. And in a lot of my training, I have a counseling background. I really like to immerse people in the understanding of all three, because when you know yourself, it's really the beginning of wisdom, and it's the aha moment of, oh my gosh, either that's how I perceive, or wow, I didn't realize it was so hard on myself and that was what was holding me back, or I really should ignite my passions more. And when you get in touch with yourself like that and you can share from your personal experiences, people want a piece of that, because you, I want to say, get more energy, and you present more energy to the other people. And so the first part of the movement really starts with yourself and being open to it. If you're not open to all the information, there's no way that your clients are, but when you unleash the power from this and you can see the improvement in your own performance, it's amazing how much other people pick up on. And that's, again, the 8 consultants that I had just a week ago were just like, wow, this is just fabulous stuff that's coming out right now. You can go to the next slide, Michael.
You want to take the first one?
Sure. We just created little avatars for ourselves because sometimes the video doesn't work. So one thing that was fascinating for me, and I've used the reports now for 12 years, but we just recently integrated a new self side so that we can capture the identity of both the person, how they are at work, and the person in terms of how they are outside of work. And if you've done any research or look into identity, we have more than one identity. We have more than one self that we present. And the assessment is going to capture 2 of those really important aspects of it. And so when I went and I looked at mine just within the past couple of weeks, I am like spot on with how I need to perform at work. I'm rock solid. I'm diving in, I'm doing the things I need to do. I've got goals out in front of me. And then I took a look at the self side and I just went, uh-oh, I'm out of balance. I've been dealing with some, I want to say, stressors in my own world, and being able to see that report just like made me realize that I need to keep the balance going and I need to take care of myself because I won't be able to keep driving in the direction I am until I do. And when I opened and shared that to the people in the group that I was with, they were just like, wow, one, thanks for being vulnerable. And two, wow, that's powerful stuff. And so I shared how I created more balance and work on getting both my self side and my work side back in line, because if any one side takes over, the other one can have issues. I also got to work with a restaurant group out of San Diego recently, and they had one of their employees. He's brilliant. He's awesome. He's, been moving forward. He's what they would, if you will, clone. But in seeing both the sides, you could see that his self side from outside of work was not as strong, and that there were some issues there. And come to find out, he had a son that had autism. And when he wasn't at work, he was spending so much time trying to figure out how to take care of his son, that energy drain, if they hadn't allowed him to take some time to really resolve what was going on with the son, would eventually start impacting his work ability. And so it was, again, just this profound insight into the internal workings of the individual and ways to get them to maximize their strength and bring that back. Michael?
My turn.
Yep.
Okay. We're running a little bit behind because of our old technical, so I'm going to step it up a little bit. But I want to talk a little bit about what this has done for me and how it's made me so passionate about what this can do. Because as Tony said, I was an entrepreneur, and as I was going through and as I learned this stuff, I realized that, guess what, I was a big part of the problem. In my mid-40s, I discovered assessment starting with DISC. Great self-awareness, and you all who worked with DISC knows how powerful it is. But I was improperly debriefed. That's something to keep in mind. If you are not a good debriefer of a DISC report, that's not good, and it can be damaging in some ways. Now, I was not made aware of how my strengths could turn into limitations, so I just barreled forward. Now, self-awareness for me was greatly enhanced once I was introduced to motivators. Wow, that really made clear why I had various struggles in my employment phase, which was really weird. But a truly deep understanding of me did not materialize until I got involved with the HPP, what we refer to as judgment. I still make mistakes, but at least I have a better understanding of why and can take action to mitigate the outcome, or in a lot of cases, that little voice in my head will warn me off of that before I make too big a fool of myself. So it's been incredibly powerful for me, and it's like a tool that has allowed me to be much more effective, I hope. Okay? Is that me? No, that's still me. I'm still me. It's still me. So quickly, these reports, we're going to show you the two reports that we've just come up, and again, they're a combination report. We're going to go through this pretty fast, as you can tell. But again, we're looking at passion, which is motivators, processing, which is the HVP, or the judgment process, or the judgment part, and presence, which is how you appear to others, or a DISC style, if you will. Now, we have two reports here. One is all about employability insights, and this report has been designed to give you objective information of who you're looking at and whether they're going to fit that particular benchmark that you have created. And we have processes for helping you do that that are incredibly effective. Now, this next one over here is what we use for coaching. Same input, a lot of the similar material, but it goes into a coaching kind of a report. Here's your strengths, here's your limitations, here's what you can do, and under the guidance of a coach, it can help them grow in the direction they want to grow. And of course, you all know that, I guess. I'm going to take a look real quick at what one of these reports look like. This is our employability insights. It's brand spanking new. What we try to do is come up with a report that gives you information in a way of disseminating it very, very quickly. Now, some of this is going to be Greek to you because you've never seen it before. But in this particular report, what we did is we included what we call an employability summary. I'm going to show you something here that you're going to say, oh my God, is that complicated? But what we did is we took the three major graphical representations of this person on one page. And in that one page, once you understand the language, and again, those of you that know behavior can look at the DISC graph and say, oh, I see what that person is. I can understand that person. Those of you that understand passion say, oh, I see what that person is. Those of you that don't understand HPP says, oh my gosh, that's Greek. That's really weird. But again, it's a language. Once you understand it, it becomes pretty transparent to you as to what it means. And this particular page will quickly tell you whether you've got a candidate you want to pursue or not. It gives you an idea of where the risks are down here from a judgment perspective. And then based on what you're looking for, you can see if the behavioral fits it. You can see if the passions fit your environment or the job. And then you can put them all together to see which ones augment the other or take away from the other. And finally, this particular report has in the back, it has some objective questions that you can ask the person where there are risk areas. We define all the areas of what we're measuring, and that's in this table down here. But then we go into where the risk is, why the risk is there, and suggest some questions so you as an interviewer can go the next step. So that's a quick overview of this report. And we've tried to make it as easy to use as possible, but once again, it's a language that once you understand it, it's like, oh my gosh, that's clear. But before you understand it, it's like, oh my gosh, that's confusing. But it's extremely powerful. Pam?
And the important thing to remember, Michael, is that you've always got the backup of the information in the report. And even for the interview questions, it'll tell you what's most important. And for the coaching comments, it has some very good probing questions that you can then get your client to work on to probe them in terms of the areas that they're in. So there's a lot of the information's there, so even if it seems complicated at first, there's backup to support you. This is just a quick look on how the HVP or the Hartman Value Profile judgment part of the profile is done. We've simplified it so that you can just click and drag up and down instead of side to side. You click once, you get a green response for positive. You click twice, you get a red for a negative, and then you draw them into place. And so it's very straightforward. We've tried to simplify it. Thanks to Tony, he has been on us about simplifying, and I got a lot of rave reviews from people who have been using HVP for many years. This is one of the most efficient ways that they've seen for people to rank the items. Go ahead and click, Michael.
Oh, I'm sorry. There, I'm sorry.
One more.
There we go. Finally. Jeez. Congratulations.
Okay. This is when you get in and you take our plus line. So the first one does kind of the world view, and then you'll have 3 total rankings of items, one for the world self in terms of how you see yourself at work, and then another one for how you see yourself. Go ahead and click again, Michael.
Okay.
And there's the self view, and then one more, work view. And again, just so that you can see in taking the judgment profile, and they have automated this now so that they can take it off of your iPads and other such things, which is also new because we didn't have that capability before. So now off of Tony's system, when you're used to taking the disc or you're used to taking passions, you now have the capability of taking this off the same platform, which is great. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Brandon and crew.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Okay, so I want to show you this because this is available not as part of the report, like a coaching report, for example, but it's available to the consultant, to the coach, to the hiring manager in a little bit expanded view from what you get in the employability report, if you will. But once again, what's really surprised us is how people have been trained in this thing. They look at that and they say, oh my gosh, is this valuable or what? Because if you understand the language, this is all you need. I mean, you can describe somebody really, really precisely with just what's on this page. And right now you're saying, oh my gosh, what does that mean? How can I ever get there? Well, it's just like anything else. Once you understand the language, it's easy. Now,
and in my integration training, I have sheets for each of the main items that you can quickly put up on the wall, look at, and get perspectives of what does it mean when they're high or low in any of them, whether it's disc, the passion, or the judgment.
Right. It's all part of the training package. And again, it's like anything else. Once you understand the language, it becomes crystal clear. So, let's go on with the next one. And this is you, Pam.
And this is just a brief look so that you can see this is the display of a self side in terms of selection. So you're getting a look at someone in terms of their natural style. So if there's a bias towards work, that will not be present. And then you also get the judgment coaching so that you get to see how the person may be operating in work. And real quickly, because I know we're crunching on time, but you'll notice that the world scores are the same and the bubbles on the self side look a little different. And this is a fascinating thing, which obviously you get in training. The one that's under judgment coaching, for how the person presents at work, is an example of a very high-achieving profile. The line from the red ball being low to the blue ball being high is that just on the rise. You would say that that's a rising profile, and they're doing extremely well. And then here's a case again where you look at the self side, and now somehow this person outside of work has a role inflated. And what they do is really inflated, but if you look at the self-direction, their ability to see themselves in the future and feel good about things is kind of lost. Well, what's leading to that? Why is that an issue? And in this particular case, the individual is wind up being caretaker, and their role is very important to them, and they're taking a lot of pride in it, and they're, if you will, going through the motion, but in the same token, they're spending so much time in that care role that they're not taking care of themselves. They're not getting some of the personal satisfaction of different things that they would like to do. And so over time, this is going to potentially be an issue. Even though they're strong right now at work, if they persist without taking care of themselves, you're going to see potential issues. Now, just quickly, if this were reversed, which is fascinating for me because I worked with a company, if, for example, at work they're presenting the high green ball under self and role awareness, that's a case of a person setting down the job. I'm just going to go through the motion. I'm going to do my job. I'll take care of it. I don't have a future in this company. I don't care. And then you go and you see the self side, and it's like they're waiting for retirement. They know exactly what they're going to do when they get out of it. And so here's this complete difference when you see how that presents in a person, and it can be very powerful as a coach. How do you get them, keep them engaged at work for a little bit longer, and how do you get them set for what it is they want to do in retirement? And sometimes I get this where a person's getting to retire and both the self and the work side are lost, and now that's a complete different picture than what we had before. So again, this just shows the power of being able to see both sides at the same time, both identities. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay.
Slide. Okay. So in the first one, we were talking about movement within self. We presented a lot of different things already about movement within clients. And success means that we go to sleep at night knowing that our talents are used in a way that served others. And I know for me, when I get the ability to open somebody up and they get that aha moment of seeing that and go, oh my gosh, that's where it's coming from. So unlike StrengthsFinders that goes, well, you're really strong in this, but you're not so strong in that, you can really pinpoint, you're not using your passion. Oh my gosh, you have a passion in this area and you're not utilizing it. We need to get your passion in there, and that makes a huge change. Or you look at DISC and go, gosh, you're adapting in a certain way. Is that really getting you where you want to go? And you know the questions to ask to kind of probe that. And it's like, well, no. And I had a gentleman that the dominance dropped so far, and it was like, gosh, you know, you seem to be having issues there, and you're not taking control of stuff. And then when I got over and I looked at judgment, I found out why. Because he was self-depreciating. He didn't feel he could take the steps to do it. And so I addressed some of the issues in the self, and all of a sudden, from a behavior standpoint, he regained that ability to take the dominance and to take control and do stuff. And within a 6-month window, the guy just, I mean, totally flipped his environment. His whole presence of being around him shifted, and he was positive, and he was engaged, and he set some goals for himself, and he was moving in a direction that was just amazing. So again, it's a way to create a movement in a client. And when you see that movement and they get excited, they're going to tell 2 friends, and it's going to increase your business. So,
Okay, so
for you, Michael.
I'm sorry, talking over you. Let's take another look at how to do that with a client. And this was an employee with one of my major accounts, and this guy is one of our DISC trainers for a very large company. Called me up one day and says, "Hey, we hired somebody. Great coder, technical skills, man, he's powerful, but he's not working out. And I don't know what to do, but I thought maybe I would take his DISC profile, give him a DISC profile, and then coach him using that." And I said, well, why don't give him our new one? Give him our personal insights report, which has 3 views of this person. So I said, okay. So he did that, and I said, when you get to the point where you got it and you want to talk to me, and I'll step you through how to debrief this. So he took it. Didn't hear from him. Finally called me up, so let's go have some lunch. And by the way, that person we were talking about is no longer with us. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So we sat down with this one page, and I described this person to him. And when I was through with that, he said, boy, you nailed it. That's him, really. So I said, what happened? He said, well, what I love about your report, and get this, what I love about your report is it's so simple. I said, really? But he said, I sat down with this guy, and we stepped through it, the passions part, this part, judgment part, and we walked through it all the way, and when we were done, my good problem employee said, you know what? I don't fit this job. I need to move on. Wow. My trainer friend said, that's huge. In a big company like ours, it's very, very difficult to call the herd, if you will, or get rid of people because of all the what we have to do that. And this guy just self-selected out. And by the way, by looking at this, this guy was already selected out. I mean, he was gone based on what I see here. So that led to another opportunity where he had a manager, great manager, that suddenly went off the rails, did something that they didn't expect. When we sat down with the manager's report that reported to this trainer manager of mine, 2 managers, and when we sat down with him, he'd already seen the report, and I said, well, do you have any issues? He said, yeah, I got a couple, but I'll wait until you're through it. We sat down, we debriefed all 3 of them. And here's another place where you can have a tremendous impact, is working with 3 people. One, the area where you're having some trying to get some things going with the manager and the subordinate. But what happened in that is some things came out that revolved around trust. There was a lack of trust. And once the manager of the manager, if you will, that's confusing, understood that and got transparency and some authenticity, he was faced before with demoting this guy, transferring him out, getting rid of him. Once he understood the issues that we uncovered, that changed. And they were able to get around it and provide a way for him to go forward. So that's another way that you can use this to have an impact with your clients. Ma'am?
Which leads us to the third movement. Again, you're working with yourself, you're working with clients, and then you get pulled in, oh, gosh, our team just isn't getting something done. How do we figure out what our problem is? Where can we diagnose what's going on with our team? And so really, each one of the pieces from this can be put into this different formats, which will show you the team formats, in order to gain valuable information. So in this particular one, for example, the circle in the blue is over economic, and you'll see there's just this huge diversity on this team with that value. And the team is being pushed to make budget. The team is pushed to try to get things done in a timely fashion. And when you see this huge discrepancy in the economic, you've got some people that are like really, really driving. You've got others that are like, well, you know, I don't care if I've got to get there. They're more conservative. We don't want to take risks. So they're not looking at those things. And so in this one now you can sit down and have a discussion about this with the team and talk about why there's differences. And then you can pinpoint those that have the high passion and go, you know, there's certain things that the team needs to accomplish. So when you have decisions based, you know, that need this type of strength, let's go to those people that have that natural passion because they're going to provide us with the information that we need. In this particular team, the other thing I noted, in yellow is the individualistic that's circled. And this is a very high individualistic team. It's made of people who are all out kind of for themselves. And so they fight against each other. They each have their own opinion, and they don't want to collaborate. They don't want to give in. And so here's a way to pinpoint and go, here's the discussion point we need to have, guys or gals, because it was a mix, and say, you know what, you're all very strong individuals, and that's wonderful, but when you come together in this team, we need to have everybody give a little bit in terms of what the team needs to accomplish. We need to make sure that your individual goals line up with what this team is trying to accomplish so that we can push these things forward. So it really can, again, pinpoint some of the issues. In this slide, you can see a side-by-side comparison. On the left side is the natural state, and on the left side is the adapted state in this particular team. And so you'll see that for the most part, I want to say they hired a little bit by DISC, so they have this nice compliance area where most people are scoring, and you have the nice influence category. And then when they adjust, there's even more people shifting into compliance, and then there's some people moving into the dominance area and starting to take control. Now, what's important to look on that then is you get to look at the other reports and go, is the person who's taking control the one that should be? Or is this person dominating the conversations, dominating the decisions being made, and influencing in maybe potentially negative way? And so it's really fascinating to then get into what's happening in those areas. And finally, this is the compass. This is the only one that I know from HVP product. It's one of the ones I designed because I wanted a visual to see how our thinking is affecting team decision making. So it's a very large team. You'll note that there are 5 people in the star category and 4 people in the triangle category. But most of the people of a team of about 12 are scoring and placing in the same thinking area. This team had groupthink. They were great visionaries. They were awesome at setting goals and saying, here's where we want to go. But they only had a couple people in the practical area. They could say, great, those are great goals, but what are we going to do to implement them? And when I talked to the HR manager, I said, I bet you have a hard time getting anything done on time. And he goes, oh my gosh, we are 3, 6 months, 9 months late on every target that we ever set. And so knowing that then as a coach, I can go in and help them set some practical systems into place to help them to delineate those so that they can start finishing projects on time and find out, what they need to do to step into those things. So it's, again, using all 3 in terms of teams creates a very visual picture of where everybody's at. And I've also used this assessment, if you will, to assess the human capital of a company where they were growing by 67%. And from looking at these particular scales, we could determine what some of the managers were dealing with so that they could then provide ready training for those specific managers. And I could work with regional managers on their general managers on what they could do to specifically coach them and bring them back to a higher performance state. Michael?
This is still you.
Oh, it's still me. And again, this is in terms of organizations, like I said, we did a human capital assessment. We started looking at even the role awareness, which was very profound, because when a company is going through that much change that rapidly, some of the things that we discovered were a difference in 2 divisions of the company. One division was like, you know what, we know what we're doing, we've been implementing, we've been able to tell that to the people underneath us. We're a little stressed about our future, but we were able to hang in there. We're going to keep persisting until things settle out. And there was another side of the company that was completely lost. When we started looking at role awareness, it was like, we haven't had anybody tell us in 3-4 weeks what success looks like. If I hadn't had some experience running stuff, I wouldn't know anything. And so how long can a team succeed when they don't know what success is? And again, the assessments pinpoint to areas where you can ask the direct questions and really get to the root of the problem. So the assessments create a deeper dive, a more powerful dive. So some people front away and go, oh, it's too complicated. But really, when you understand it, it takes you right to the source of the problem. And when you find the source and you fix the pain, the companies love you. They will come back to you every time. The organization does not staff without me now. And this one is yours, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. The things that Pam said about the teams, one of the things that you'll find if you get proficient at this stuff is when you're pulled in because there's a team dysfunction. One thing that helps is when you have this kind of data at your fingertips, it makes a stronger pitch than just telling them, because you can show them empirically what's going on, and typically they get it, and that's really powerful. This particular example, I approached the company, long story here, but I got them at a really high pain point. I came in, told them what we did, and they said, well, we got this problem. We got this person that wants to be, we're having problem. He's a manager. His people don't like him. He's got a lot of turmoil. He's really, really smart. I'm looking at this thing and said, boy, he sure is. He's almost professorial, or he is professorial. But he's got some leadership deficiencies. He doesn't really want to lead. And I'm looking at this and say, yeah. And so they said, what can you do? I said, well, first I need to do a diagnosis. Okay, so that's what this does. And again, we sat down and we talked about it, we stepped through it. Never met the guy, don't know anything about him. And I stepped through and I said, let me describe this guy and see if I'm right. And I do it, and they said, oh my gosh, you nailed it. That's exactly who he is. So what do we do? And my first comment is, you don't hire him in the first place. They didn't like that, of course. But I said, what you have here basically is somebody that's going to be very, very difficult to elevate to the level you want. So you've got to deal with that. But the bigger point is, before you promote, make sure that you've got the raw material that's going to be able to take that promotion and run with it and become a leader. And this person really, really, really lacks that in so many ways. And because of the way
Michael?
that, pardon me? What?
Michael, while you're on this slide here, comment, people love it, very visual. They can certainly see the value in having more than just DISC, and even more than just DISC and motivators. They particularly like all the check marks in the bottom right. The big question now is, you and Pam seem so proficient in this. How does our listeners become proficient in interpreting this, whether it is developing an employee or the selection of an employee? What do they do? How do they go about getting better at this?
Well, I was going to close with that, so you're ahead of me. That's fine. That's great. Yeah, the point of it is those of you that are really certified and passionate and got a really good understanding of that, and also DISC, the next step is take the step into understanding the HPDP. And that's just a matter of learning. And we have a training course that takes you through that. And then we step up afterwards is how do you integrate the three together. And like I say, it's learning it. Once you learn it, it's a new language. And we have a program for that. As a matter of fact, you will be receiving some information from the Assessment 24/7 group about how you might take a look at that. And we're also going to give some pretty good deals for folks that have attended this, that they can take the next step.
Michael, I'll add a little detail on that one. I've been in charge of getting the training going, and for some people it seems ominous, but we have a lot of the training that has been recorded, so you can get on and you'll have the information sent to you. You can get on at your own pace and listen to the audio and the presentation of the slides so that you can go through it at whatever pace you feel like you can. And then after you've done 3 sessions, we'll run a live session just to make sure that you know what's going on. You get a chance to interact with me, with Michael. We get to run through some examples. If you have people that are taking it, we'll use those examples, because when you have somebody that's done it that you know and walk through it, you'll remember it. So we do have a lot of it automated. We have the information to hand out to you. Obviously, if you've already got passions and you're certified in it, we'd love to give you review information just so that you know the way that we go about it, because it may be different than the way you were trained. And I've found most of the people I've worked with have liked the added insight that we've provided. Same with DISC. Again, it's one of those, we're looking at how do you integrate it with that. You can get the information if you've already had DISC, just so that you know when we talk about it, how we're talking about it, so that you can get that integration and that extra power of understanding. And obviously, you would need to go through the judgment certification. I've had some people go through judgment certification within the course of a month and a half. So it's just a matter of pacing, and we'll get information about how to sign up to get that. And we will continue to run those live sessions so that you can get that interaction. And I run what's called a monthly insight meeting. So the second Monday of every month, I pick a new topic. You can get on and listen to it, whether it's team building or trust as it relates to the assessments, or I dive it deeper into self, or I talk about self-directed. And you'll get access to the entire library that we have at this point, because we've been running it now for almost a year, and take a look at any of those training informations on your own time and your own pace, so that you can continue to gain extra insight. And my objective is to give you experience. So that you can not flounder maybe like I did in my early years, but just to really hone in on what's the most important, what's the most practical, what can I actually do with the knowledge I gain. Michael?
Pam, there's a question. The question is, these Monday sessions that you hold, you're located in Phoenix, so what time of the day do you typically do that? Webinars. What
It's
time?
a webinar. We run it at 7 a.m. Pacific time. On Mondays, and it's the second Monday of the month. And if you're interested, all we need to do is get that contact information, and Michael will follow up with a mailing, and you can get on that mailing list so that you can take part. Even if you haven't been trained, it would give you the opportunity to kind of listen into what we do and the type of power of information that we can provide, so that you decide whether or not you want to take the next step.
Perfect.
Okay. And this is the closing one. Pam, you want to take this and close it?
Yeah. Again, for me, this is just so exciting to get to this point. We've been trying to work on perfecting this for many years, and it's really about starting a movement. And that one-page synopsis, which you look at and go, it doesn't completely make sense, but I can hear and feel the power that you're talking about and the insights that you're providing. You too can have that, and you can start a movement where you're at. We'll help you understand yourself. We'll help you get new insight into your clients so that you can make a real difference and make a movement in them that they're going to be able to have other people see, and it will just start growing. And that's how I've really grown my business, is just by word of mouth only. And it's amazing where it can take you when you start creating these movements, whether it's just increasing the number of clients you work with, or also expanding so that you're working with teams and understanding how to work with teams, or getting into work within an organization, or even being called in to do more national speeches. I got called to do a presentation for Phillips 66 because I worked with a client and he loved me so much he told the board, bring her in. So again, lovely insights. We want to share everything that we can to help you be successful, and look forward to hearing from any of you and any questions you might have after this session. Anything you want to add, Michael?
Yeah, one step. I mean, the first step in any of this stuff, and whenever we're introducing this to somebody, we usually say, don't believe us, experience it for yourself. And so experience it for yourself, and that's getting a report, getting it debriefed, and that can be handled through 24/7. And like I said, every time we do that, they come away. We've had people say that's the most insightful assessment system we've ever seen, bar none. So it's a powerful tool, and it gives you a lot of power you're already powerful people. This is just another tool that can take you a step farther.
All right,
Yeah,
Michael.
and that's one thing I'd like to add is most of you have some type of expertise or something that you do because you have a passion for doing it or working with a particular group of people. So I'll just share one experience. I have a client on the East Coast, and he works with physicians. And he called me up when I was helping him with all this integration, and he was like, gosh, Pam, can you help me? I've got to work with the Yale physicians, and they're the #1 team in the country for lung, liver, and heart transplant. And I'm going, I know nothing about doctors. Okay, so that's his expertise. But I know people. I know this report can break down anybody from any walk of life, whether they're millennials or physicians or they're top athletes. I said, absolutely. Let's break them down. Let's see what's going on. Let's look at who the leader is and what the components look like. And we were able to get him to hone in specifically on where the issues rested and why they existed, to come up with a game strategy for him to improve communication, to get some of the leader to tone down a little bit, and to get the other people back engaged who are ready to walk out of the program. And within 6 months, he saved that team, which saved Yale's surgical area. I can't even tell you the number of billions of dollars, because if the team had broke up, the research funding that would have been lost would have been unbelievable. And so again, it's just really, really powerful. And when you understand the core of human performance, you're going to be able to help people in many ways. In some ways you may not even know yet.
Perfect.
He makes some amazing feats.
Let me just ask you, we did get a couple of questions. First of all, your contact info. So I'm going to put it on the screen. I believe, Michael, yours is michael@viatechglobal.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct?
And Pam, yours is ccsuccess@q.com. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So I will put this on the screen for everybody. The tool, another question was, when is this tool available? And I believe it's available right now. So if people want to actually take a demo of this assessment, we can do that. Is that correct, guys?
That's correct. Like as you see it, it's a very complex tool. There's some really exciting stuff coming down the pike that we'll be announcing very shortly that'll augment this, but this tool is very, very intense. It requires somebody that really knows what they're doing, as you might have guessed. So training is very, very important, but the tool is available right now.
Okay,
Take it.
so it's available.
We'll debrief you. Look forward to talking to any of you interested.
Yeah, so the tool's available right now. If you are interested in demoing the tool, then what you can do is simply email either Michael or Pam, tell them that you would like a demo of this, and they'll take care of it. I know somebody did ask how much is the tool. We cannot talk about that on a webinar, and it does differ depending on quantity purchases. But if you want to email Michael or Pam, and once you get into it and talk to them, then they can talk to you individually one-on-one about pricing. As we only have about a minute or so left, if anybody else has a question, please post it now so that we can handle it in this last minute or so. If you have problems looking at their email address, again, it's Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, at VIA, V-I-A, Tech, T-E-C-H, global.com, all no spacing. And Pam is C-C success at Q, just the letter Q.com. That's kind of strange, Pam, Q.com.
That's Quest.
Yeah, okay, all right, we got that.
Let me make one final comment. When we do our training is unconditionally guaranteed. If you sign up for it and you get into it and you say, this is not for me, no charge.
Absolutely.
We are that confident in what this can bring to your practice if you're interested. That confident.
All right. Well, anyway, we are done. I want to thank both of you, Michael and Pam, for a great presentation. Very visual. I love the charts. They're incredibly visual. And I can see if somebody knows how to read these charts, in a single chart, they really can debrief their clients. So I'm an advocate of simplicity and practicality, and I think we have both in this assessment. So again, thank you everybody for attending. Those of you who are with Action Coach, you're automatically going to get a copy of this emailed to you. That's what Angie always says. And everybody else who's not a part of Action Coach, Assessments 24/7 will email you a copy of this recording. And with that, I thank everybody. Have a great day, and we will see you next month. I don't even remember what our next program is, but if you go to assessments24x7.com and search across the top for webinars, it'll tell you what the next webinar series is. So again, thank you everybody, and we'll see you next month. Bye.